So here we are on the southwest corner of the square. There are 69 houses in total on the square, of which 47 of the original houses survive. And there was a big conservation battle fought here in the 60s and the 70s, because in the early 60s, a well-known Dublin developer, Matt Gallagher, started site assembling up here with the intention of demolishing the entire square and building 4 huge slab office blocks. He brought in a ball and chain and illegally demolished numbers 55 and 56, at which point concerned members of the Georgian Society took action, and they sought and successfully won a High Court injunction to stop Matt Gallagher demolishing any more of the square. And they negotiated with him for a period of years until eventually they bought a mixture of buildings and sites, 22 in total, for £69,000. This group of people formed a holding company called Mountjoy Square Estates to hold the 22 houses and sites until they could find sympathetic people to either redevelop the sites in a compatible manner or to restore the houses. And this house was the last house to be sold by Mountjoy Square Estates. And my parents bought it in 1978, and Mountjoy Square Estates was wound up shortly after that. So would you like to follow me in? If you were coming on business, you were shown into this room here, this small front parlour. And if you were coming to visit the family, you'd have gone through these double doors and you'd have come into the family back parlour, which is here. And then if you were coming to be entertained formally, you'd have been brought upstairs onto the piano nobile on the first floor, and the dining room was at the back and the drawing room was at the front. And on the next floor up, you would have had a master bedroom with probably a dressing room and maybe a second bedroom with a dressing room. And then upstairs there would have been children's rooms, maybe a nursery and maybe accommodation for a governess. So there's a few interesting features in this house, and one of them is this set of doors. And it's just a little bit of Georgian trickery. You can see that the arch, which mimics the arch over the front door, is blind. There's no glass in it. It took me a while to figure out why that was like that. But have a look for yourselves. You've got 3 panels here. You've got a fixed panel on this side, and you've got these 2 doors that open. So on this side, they put in a dummy panel to fill the whole space. And on this side, that's narrower. That scoop out of there allows them to centre that door on that wall. A very nice feature of these houses is that what's known as the going of the stairs, which is a multiplication of the distance travelled horizontally by the distance travelled vertically. And there is a ratio that is very comfortable, and in a lot of modern buildings it's compromised because of the economics of building space. But the Georgians weren't worried about that, and they exploited the big volume they had, the high ceilings, to give this lovely, comfortable going. And it's really easy to walk up and down. And then if we go on up to the first floor, you can see how slender the balusters are. So slender that they actually need stiffening. This was all about elegance and lightness. The early 1790s was the pinnacle of the neoclassical. And here you have it expressed in these very, very light handrail and these very skinny balusters. So now we're on the first floor reception room, which would have been originally probably the dining room. So if you were coming to visit the family and you were being formally entertained, you'd have been brought in those double doors and upstairs and into these 2 rooms. Known sometimes as the piano nobile. Originally this room had 3 windows similar to the front of the house, and in about 1840, purely for fashionable reasons, and there was an eminent architect who leased the house for about 25 years, and we think he made this particular alteration, and he put in this fashionable wide window. So he opened up the central window with these 2 single with sashes each side, and he closed up the two original windows to each side. When we go outside and look back at the house, you'll be able to see the headers of the openings are still there today. We're now standing on the northwest corner of the square, and we're looking back at the corner of Upper Gardner Street and Gardner Place. If you look here, you'll see a bit of trickery going on, because you've got the two bookend buildings on either side with their entrance on Gardner Place, and they present two bays to the square. But if you look at the house one in, on each side here, you'll see that they're kind of benefiting from the two bays of the adjoining house, and they could be read as a very grand 5-bay house. And you know, if you were looking for a bit of social cachet, that was useful. So here we are on the northeast corner of the square, on the corner of Belvedere Place and Fitzgibbon Street. I draw your attention to the lovely stepped profile of the parapet line going down Belvedere Place, and the fact that the houses diminish in style. There are more modest 3-storey houses as you go down the hill, but it also takes advantage of the natural topography of the land, and it accentuates the fall away from the square. We're standing outside probably the 3 finest surviving houses on the square, and these 3 were completed by 1798, and the builder was Frederick Darley, who was one of the top builders of the day, and these were very high-spec houses. They were built as a group of 3. You can see the Darley trademark, the coved moulded parapet stones at the top. You can see that they have this very expensive granite ashlar basement walls. You just can't replicate that today. You just, I mean, and it's really high quality to have survived. And the patina is absolutely beautiful. The colour is lovely. The proportion of pointing to brick is just right, and it is really precious. Wrought iron balconets, lovely, elegant, semi-elliptical shape, all hand wrought. Absolutely beautiful door case, Portland stone, extra little bit of detail in the flutings in the surround of the fan light. There was likely an overarch with that carried a lantern, because there was no public lighting in those days, and individual householders lit their own houses, which lit the street. So here we are in number 47 Mountjoy Square, and this is a private apartment that was one of 5 apartments in this original Georgian house that was restored by Zoe Developments as part of the conditions of their planning permission when they developed 48 to 52, the apartment block next door. They've done a very good job, and it's very clever how they have left the original footprint of the house intact. For Culture Night this year, we are having a concert in the house for 25 people, and there's no cost, but it has to be pre-booked. So number 47 was likely built by Charles Thorpe, if not, or maybe only decorated by him, but this plasterwork we think is by him, and it's this lovely octagonal ceiling and hand modelled. It's got these additional little feature, which were these little roundels with oil paintings of putty with the attributes of the 4 seasons. It's another feature of the house is a neoclassical feature is that the windows go almost to the floor, and this was everything about neoclassical was about length and slenderness, and it was to give an illusion of length and to let in the maximum amount of light. And it means when you're sitting down here, you are looking out into the greenery of the square.